Breaking down UFC 312, February 9th in Sydney right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion.
Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good at the Aussie MMA Instagram page and give us a bit of glow up because we're killing
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitchell Tinley and we are about 90 minutes removed from UFC 312, February 9th in Sydney. Card that was just bullied before it even got here. I do have the official numbers. I don't know how much they'll mean to you. If you don't know, I was doing media covering the whole event to the best I could. The official numbers, Chad Dana White at the press conference. I mean, like 60 other people were there, but yeah, makes it sound like just me and him were having a conversation. I think it's 18,293 at Crute Bank Arena with an official gate of 7.8 million. Something like new record, beat their old record. I don't understand gates. You can just make the tickets more expensive, and we love fights, so we'll buy them. So yeah, don't really know what it means. All I know is that it wasn't as hyped as people made it out to be, but boy, was it bloody good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm a complete nerd. Starting the card out. No, actually, let's talk about the vibe of Sydney first. Throughout the whole week, been here since Tuesday, press conference. It was welcome to country there. Missed that. Feels a little racist, but yeah, it's earlier on in the week. Press conference, weigh-ins, ceremonial weigh-ins, official weigh-ins, media days. Here for all of it. It was really good. I think we saw 3 Australian Anzacs debut. We had 9 overall. Look, co-main event, Weili Zhang taking on Tatiana Suarez. It ended up being an intriguing matchup. And Dricus du Plessis beaten the shit out of Sean Strickland. Both of those guys weirdly beloved in their second fights in Australia, which is nice. Look, starting out the card, look, Crute Bank Arena, if you don't know how it works, card kicked off at about 10 a.m. Australian time, so it's always a weird time, but it's not as bad as Perth, where the first fight was kicking off around about 6 a.m., 7 a.m. In August and the previous February when they fought there. But in Australia, it's always very weird, but the crowd gets in early for the prelims and we get super drunk to watch the fights. Yeah, like I said, if I had to rank it from Australian cards, like in crowd ambience and vibe, probably like a 6 or 7. It just didn't have that pop. There wasn't Volkanovski versus Islam at RAC Arena in Perth. It definitely wasn't that. Was it bad? No. Do we shit on every other country that's ever held a UFC event? Absolutely. So, kicking off the card, we had Quillan Salkilld against Anshul Jubli. And I said it going in, I've said it for many, many, many years. Quillan Salkilld will contend for a belt, and so will his teammate Kody Haddon, who unfortunately got off, had to pull out with an injury. Would have loved to have seen Kody Haddon in his bout. We'll go into that a little bit later on. But Quillan Salkilld just basically Blake Donnelly him. What he did on the regional scene, that's such a weird, obscure reference. Quillan Salkilld into Eternal when he had his title shot about a year and a half ago. He knocked out Blake Donnelly. He was like a dominant champion. He was an absolute stud. Very, very early. I think it was inside a minute. And Quillan Salkilld not really talked about for the power in his hands, but you could see it with Anshul Jubli. He just set it up well. Behind the jab, boom. Put him out. He face planted. Now, granted, I understand he like Anshul Jubli from India, and your fans and Indian fans are going to be all over these comments. But look, he should have been out just from that shot. When you watch it back, you can understand. Like, he's like holding onto his legs and stuff. But look, like I said, incredibly biased here. But I feel like if you win performance of the night, which he did, he ended up picking up $50,000. That was awesome for Quillan Salkilld. But yeah, it was a clear TKO. If it didn't happen then, it was going to happen after that. Beautiful knockout, beautiful start to Quillan Salkild's career. And he even said post fight, him and his teammate Kody Haddon have this sort of like race to the belt, and it's not a joke. They both are legitimately racing towards their titles. And I think Quillan got his contract on Dana White Contender Series first. Then Kody, so he was in the lead. Then Kody got his official debut first over Quillan, but that was a decision victory. And now Quillan comes in from behind, gets the knockout, and he said at the post-fight presser that he is indeed in front in that race, and I can't blame him. He also gave a shout-out to his teammate and friend, Jared, who passed away during training camp or a little bit just before, which hit home. So it was... very, very nice story for Quillan, and even if you're just a fan of MMA, not just Australia in general, very stoked for Quillan Salkilld and his entire team. There's no one in the world that deserves it more, so shout out to him. And before we move on to our second fight, Mo Beats is here, so I'll be back.
Thanks for asking, guys. I got diabetes.
All right, I'm back. Next fight. Jono Micallef taking on Kevin Jousset. Now, weirdly, both these boys have had times of potentially not enjoying yours truly, and rightfully justified. But they're both two fighters I thoroughly enjoy. I think they're two of the most physically intimidating fighters going around. Jono Micallef ultimately taking out Kevin Jousset, I think it's 29-28 across the board. Yep, unanimous decision. Jono, Melbourne boy. Kevin Jousset, Frenchman via, spent time in Melbourne in Absolute. And then now out of New Zealand for City Kickboxing. Kevin Jousset, I think it's his third, fourth fight. He's been around. He made his debut in the UFC, I think, in the September card back in 2023. I think it was 293. And just absolute stud. And then came up against the hurdle that was Brian Battle, who's going to be very good as well, and is very good. And unfortunately, skid there. So the fact that he was given to Jono Micallef for Micallef's debut shows you just how good they think Jono Micallef is. And boy, did he prove them right. He's super talented, man. He really, really is. Never ever critiqued his skills, but just didn't. And this is why you probably should stop watching and never watch me ever. But I never really made a big fuss out of him. For no reason other than just, I don't know, maybe because he's from Melbourne, I was from Perth or whatever. But and I was stuck on some of the other guys at the time, and he was a more younger guy coming up, because I think it's less than 2.5 years since he made his professional debut, and he's now 8-1 or something. So just steamrolled people. His only loss was to Alden Bates, and he quickly bounced back, destroyed Matt Vale, went to the Contender Series, first round triangle, and then on to his UFC debut. So the fact that you're getting Kevin Jousset in your debut is that's rough. Keep in mind that Colby, Thicknesse, and Aleks Topuria, who we'll talk about a little bit later on, debut versus debut. So they obviously thought of big things for Jono. But just every time he kicks, you can see in round one, the welts underneath Jousset's ribs. Jono's just got, it's everything he does is heavy, smooth and fast, but heavy. You can feel it. And his hands, I don't know how big his hands are, but they look like melons. And when he hits people, it is just devastating. I don't know how far he's going to go, but I wouldn't be. I thought Kevin Jousset was very, very, very good, and might even end up being top 10 one day in the welterweight division. And if Jono kind of did that to him already, I don't know why Jono can't. Dude, sky's the limit. You know what I mean? I think it's great that we're kind of seeing some of these matchups that we would have seen or would have wanted to see in the regional scene. And in a weird way, it's kind of cool because just timing didn't line up. But it's kind of cool because it's you think you miss out on it. For example, Quillan Salkilld versus Tom Nolan. You're no. But then comes back around and maybe they can dance. And like we have seen with Jono Micallef and Kevin Jousset. But yeah, look, I just think it's a really, really cool story. I think it's really, really inspirational in a weird way. And if anyone doesn't know why I keep bringing up the Jono loss, it's because it's like like, whether you think he won or lost, I don't really care. But like that he had this like skid and then he like bounced back and has come back and just not only got to the UFC, but like now look where he is. I don't know. I just think it's super impressive. Maybe it's just me, but like I get really like stuck in that sort of narrative. Jono has definitely turned me, not that I wasn't a believer before, but like a double believer. I wouldn't be surprised if Jono's in the top 10 in the next, 2 years. So I don't know. What's your thought? Let me know. What's your thought? You only get one. What's your thoughts? Let me know. Kevin Jousset also, I just think he's a stud. He'll be back. Jono's just, he just ran into a bigger bull that was more ready at the time. Final fight of the early prelims. Won't spend too much time on it. Rongzu versus Cody Steele. Didn't really spend too much time watching this because obviously Aussies, but also press conferences. If you don't know, you're in the media room and you're kind of watching and they bring the guys in and then you focus on them and the TVs are like the fights are still going on, but you're not paying attention because you're busy talking to these guys. But it absolutely looked like fight of the night. So I don't even know if it was. I wasn't paying attention to that either. But Rongzu and Cody Steele, absolute just barn burner of a fight. So go back and watch that if you can. The next one, we moved into the second half of the prelim card. We started with the debutant versus debutant, the most hyped debutant versus the most hyped debutant. Not because of who they are, but because of who they brought with them. Aleks Topuria taking on Colby Thicknesse. Now, Aleks Topuria ended up taking out Colby Thicknesse by unanimous decision, pretty convincingly. Now, Aleks Topuria, of course, the older brother of Ilya Topuria and kind of coach as well. And Colby Thicknesse, the brother-like figure, the younger brother, young training partner of Aleks Volkanovski, Ilya Topuria, and Volkanovski has obviously, done the dance before, so it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool little story. Yeah, what's my thoughts on this? Look, once again, like don't listen to me. I know like a bee's dick of what Volk and Joe Lopez would know at freestyle MMA. I thought it was a little bit like soon for Colby to come up. And I think he's a stud. I really do. I just didn't want to see him coming off the back of those like Bali fights. Now, granted, him and his team say that like that otherwise they wouldn't have had any fights. No one was willing to fight him and all that sort of stuff. And you got to take that for face value, or you got to sort of believe that because it's the information you're getting. And if that's the case, you can understand why he took those fights. But I still would have preferred him to take on like any other sort of bantamweight, like even like a Rod Costa or something before making the jump to the UFC. I still think he is, and I know he's still signed. I think it was like one fight, and we were hearing that it was a 4-fight deal. But whatever. Look, I think he's really going to come into his own at around about 27. I think he's 25 now. I think he still has time. I think he's very, very good. I just think he needs to get those like more like grizzled vet fights under his belt. And then I think he's going to come back like streaming, because there's no one, in my opinion, once again, there's no one tougher than Colby Thicknesse. He's got the biggest heart in all of MMA. And I don't mean that in like Rudy sort of sense, like he's shit but he keeps going. Like it's not that. It's every time he gets clipped, he just battles on, man. And he finds a way. He's a tremendous grappler. We obviously didn't get to see that sort of pay off against Topuria. But yeah, I just think I would have maybe liked another year of Colby smashing some of the top guys, which he 100% would have done before he got to the UFC. But like I said, what do I know? And you got to jump when you get the opportunity, or you might never get the chance again. So, Mitchell, shut up. Aleks Topuria as well, I don't think he's going to be like anything amazing either. I don't want to be that typical guy that has an Australian MMA podcast. But I think if like Colby and Topuria ran it back in 2 years, I think Colby smokes him. But I understand how ridiculous that sounds. Like, keep in mind, full disclosure, He lost 30-27 on all three judges. Colby did. I think Colby has a bigger ceiling. I still stand by what I said previously, that I'm unsure yet of where Colby can get to, but I definitely think he could be top 10, top 15 over the next 3 or 4 years, but it's just not now, in my opinion. Like I said, if I lose 100 friends over that, then I am sorry. But I'm happy to debate. Once again, I know nothing. They know everything. Next up, Wang Cong took on Bruno Brasil. Did not pay attention to this fight. Not because of any other reason. Obviously, allegiances to Australian MMA and all like the press conferences and stuff were on. And so it was on like mute. And the TV, I had to do this. And I did. But Wang Cong defeated Bruno Brasil 30-27. Next up, the big train. Probably hate some people do that. Tom Nolan defeated Viacheslav Borshchev. Guy with an extensive kickboxing record. It was tough, gritty. Tommy Nolan ended up taking him out 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. I really like this of Tom Nolan. I said this going in. He is still like that violent man that is ready to bang with anyone. But I honestly, I think like, and once again, like, if you're listening to me or watching me do this, like, you're the problem. So if you're this deep and you're like, hey, I don't know what he's talking about, it's your fault. So I'm going to stop prefacing that, and I'm just going to talk, and you're just going to be along for the ride. Tom Nolan, ever since he got stopped, I think, in his UFC debut, and then he came back and he put like a nice decision on, I think it was in Perth. He's just like really put it together. He seems like way more patient. He grapples a lot more. Like he even said after the fight, no one knows how good a grappler he is because he just kind of doesn't show it. There was even a moment where he was on his back and he was like welcoming Borshchev into his guard. And like even on his back, he was violent, throwing elbows, cut him up kicks. Like it just, I don't know, it looked good. Not too many times the guys on their back score points. But Tommy Nolan did. I think sky's the limit for Tommy Nolan. I really do. I think when he got signed after his vicious Dana White Contender Series knockout and called a straight killer by Dana White, he was like even getting scanned into the video game. Oop, that's a message from all my fans saying, oh my God, Mitchell, you're so right. And all your points and opinions are correct. Tom Nolan I think is an absolute stud. And I'm not going to say who I think he should fight next because I'm not going to go that deep into like the analysis. But man, I think he could be like top 15. Probably by this time next year. I reckon he smokes a few more people and I reckon he's right there. Honestly, lightweight's a deep division, so it's very, very tricky. But I swear to God, UFC, if you match him and Quillan Salkilld, you're dead to me. Don't do it. But yeah, shout out to Tom and his team. Excellent stuff. Up next, this one breaks my heart. Ironically, my heart was as big as Jack Jenkins. Decent segue. Jack Jenkins going down to Gabriel Santos submission, rear naked choke in the third round. This breaks my heart. Love me some Jack Jenkins. I think everyone does. Gabriel Santos was his best opponent to date by far. I don't think anyone... Like, you're not going to know how good Gabriel Santos is until like a couple of years. I reckon you look back and it's going to age really well. But right now, it just looks like an unranked guy beat him type thing. But I reckon both him and Jack are still going to eventually be top 15 in the next 2 years. That seems to be what I say about everyone. But no, honestly, I truly do. Jack, I don't know what I can and can't say. Look, Jack had definitely some troubles going into this fight. I'll put it that. And he 100% would not... no excuses type thing. That's not what Jack Jenkins does, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying he didn't have like the best sort of launching pad into this fight, unfortunately. And yeah, but it was, look, he had his moments. When we did our interview, and you can see it on the YouTube page, Australian MMA _, We actually edited a bit out because Jack kind of said what he was going to do to get the victory. And then I was going to play it after he won. I'll tell you what that was. He basically said he's going to use a leg kick to get him to switch stances, land the head kick. Right? Jack lands the head kick in round 1, basically nearly finishes him. Moments away type thing. And obviously, ultimately, Gabriel Santos puts him in a triangle, and he had to do... Jack Jenkins had to pull out the whole Volkanovski Ortega style to survive. But then, I think he got caught with an elbow, and I think he's broken his jaw, not confirmed, but he's definitely off to the hospital. The UFC confirmed that. With a suspected fractured jaw? I don't know what they said. Something to do with his jaw. But yeah, Jack had a tough fight. He just did. Look, he lost. I'm not going to make excuses for him. There are no excuses for him. Jack Jenkins wouldn't make excuses for himself, but Jack will be back. He's a stud of a bloke. He's a stud of a grappler. He's a stud of a kickboxer. He works his ass off. He's still only 31. Yeah, he'll be back, but sad day for Jack Jenkins. Bets. Moving on to the main card, Jake Matthews, the Celtic kid, even though he's like 30, and in the post-fight press conference, he basically said, "I think I have to be the Celtic man now." But man, it's good to see him back. He's just got lightning hands, man. He's really like developed his boxing, not developed it, but like he's like really showcasing it now. And yeah, look, he beat Francisco Prado 10-9 across the board. Just classic Jake Matthews. He's gone through a stage sometimes of like win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and he even called himself a journeyman at some stage. Mate, he is 30. Let's scrap it. Let's pretend that was his debut, right? He's only 30. It's only because he's been around for 10 years that we critique him. But he said it best himself. Like, he has learned on the job. He's still a time, man. He could still fight. Like, keep this in mind. He could still fight for another, like, 6 to 8 years, and you wouldn't say he's old. Do you know what I mean? And then his career would have spanned 18, 20 years. Like, look at, was it Jim Miller? Was he 43, 40, 41, 43, whatever how old he was before he retired? Now, I'm not saying that's what we want Jake Matthews to be. I want title runs, and then I want him off into the sunset type thing. But, yeah, look, he struggled to get an opponent. No one wanted to come over here to fight him. Why would you? It's Jake Matthews. Props to Francisco Prado for coming over. I don't know what's next for Jake Matthews, but, yeah, he's definitely earned a place, or at least an opportunity to get into the top 15. That's all this bloody podcast has been, is guys will be top 15 in the next 2 years. I think Jake Matthews will either crack the top 15 or will get a top 15 opponent by his next bout. Next up, Jimmy Crute versus Rodolfo Bellato. They fought to a majority draw. Now, Jimmy looked amazing. Look, coming back after his near retirement, beautiful. I think it was a head kick. Look, he landed some absolute Bendigo bombs on Bellato, and yeah, look, couldn't put him away. I still think he landed the bigger shots and the harder shots, but I think, what does that work to be? He got a 10-8 round, as in he nearly finished him, and then he lost 10-9, 10-9. I think that's how that would work mathematically. And look, Sam Greco kind of said it great in the corner. He was like, don't F this up by being clumsy. I don't really know what that meant. But I think it was like, look, he had moments. He could have absolutely put him away. Jimmy looked amazing out there. He looked like he was having a lot of fun. Just took a lot of shots, threw a lot of shots. Amazing wrestling, amazing ground and pound. Hopefully Jimmy walks away being quite like proud of that performance, and he'll be back. You can put him straight back in there. In my eyes, it was, and this sounds dumb, and I understand that. In my eyes, it was like a moral victory, even though the actual victory would have done wonders. I feel like a draw is, you don't lose, hence the name. But he got that sort of, he got back in the cage type thing, and he got back to being like the old Jimmy. And I think that victory is like more important than anything. And a very tougher pill to swallow, this next one. Taliesin Teixeira landing the knee to the body and taking out the bad man, Justin Taffa. Not much to say about this one, just incredibly disappointing. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Justin Taffa has a puncher's chance against any man in the world. And unfortunately, he was on the wrong side of it. So, yep, unlucky for Justin. It was good to see him during UFC 312. He's a kid on the stage for open workouts. It was cool. It was nice. He's a really great guy, really friendly. I wish the best for him. But, yeah, he'll be back and we'll see him punching on real soon. If not, just chuck him in BKFC when it comes to Perth, allegedly, in June. So imagine Justin Taffa doing bare-knuckle fighting. People would die. And finally, co-main event, Weili Zhang taking on Tatiana Suarez and Dricus du Plessis taking on Sean Strickland. Now, for the co-main, I think Weili was coming in as the underdog. I know because I bet money on her. Kind of helped out by Frank Hickman, who's an Australian wrestling aficionado. There's also a very funny video of him getting into it while watching Cage Side. He's really animated. It's quite funny. But yeah, and Weili's been doing a lot of Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. She does it one too many times. She goes Aussie, oi, Aussie, oi, Aussie, oi, Aussie, oi. And I have to let you know, Weili, because I know you'd be watching this, because like, why wouldn't you be? It's 3 Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Not 4, but we'll get there. Yeah, no, it was great. She came back. Tatiana Suarez looked amazing in moments, but it wasn't enough as, Weili just turned it around and, yeah, it's cool. Love having a fight here. She's super fun. Finally, Dricus du Plessis basically pitched a shutout against Sean Strickland. It was 50-45, 50-45, and 49-46. Sean Strickland, the most hated man by Australian media. Funny enough, you can see a clip of Dana White going to town on the media about kind of everything that's happened this week. Dricus du Plessis, I have said this before, I thought he was in like a little mini GSP sort of vibe. I know it sounds dumb, but he just kind of seems like in form. Everyone loves him. He's the man of the moment. He's the media guy. And the reason why I say that, not that he looks anything like GSP or sort of like that in the cage, but I just think he's kind of the man for a little bit. Now, the next fight is more than likely comes at Chimaev. And in my opinion, I think Chimaev might get him. But that's just my opinion, and I'm an idiot. And it won't be in Australia because Chimaev has tried multiple times to get into Australia, and the takedown defense of the land down under is too much to stop that man. So yeah, it'll be, I don't know, whatever. Let's so April. I just made that up. But look, great card, great show. Even though you guys hated it and complained online, I was there. I watched it. It was a fun show. I've had to rate it. It'd be a 7.5 to 8 out of 10, only because a couple of Aussies lost, and I didn't like that. And look, was it lacking star power from the outside? Probably. But it's one of those things where it's like, don't knock a fight card until you watch it. I would score it maybe 7, 8 out of 10. Nah, probably 7 out of 10. Look, didn't have the star power. That's fine. Few Aussies lost. A bit upset with that. And obviously I'm a little biased being in the country and watching it in person. But let me know what you thought of the card, what you think people should do next and whatnot. And maybe I'll answer some questions. Who knows? Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Stick around. Hopefully I'm going to chat about the sort of feeder card to the UFC. If you want to know kind of the college basketball to the NBA that is the UFC and who might be feeding guys in next. Eternal MMA 92 had their card as well. In Sydney, sort of the night before the UFC. So I'll be talking a bit about that and guys to watch and who might be the next debutantes heading in to the UFC. But make sure you subscribe. Check us out on Instagram as well at Australian MMA _. Other than that, I will see you next time. It has been a bloody blast.
PRP Global and Vex have joined forces, so keep an eye out launching mid-November. They've got a new Vex website and new MMA fightwear range releasing shortly. Vex, designed for combat and worn by the best in Australia.